On the 31st of May 1998, police find the decomposed remains of missing pregnant teenager Sylvia Fleming under the floorboards in a house in Omagh, County Tyrone. They uncover a dark taboo. She's been murdered, decapitated, and chopped into 8 pieces. And the killer is the man she loves.
This wasn't a sex game gone wrong. This was a murder that was planned. He knew exactly what he was going to do that night.
I can't imagine a more horrific experience to go through with the person you believe is meant to love you.
You don't do something like that to somebody that you care about. He's pure evil. Pure evil.
Britain's Darkest Taboos reveals the shocking true stories behind the most horrific acts of familial crime, including the death of Croydon teenager Tia Sharp.
He degraded my little girl.
A crime that horrified a nation.
This is the little girl that was chopped up and put under floorboards. Even by Northern Ireland's cruel standards, this was a shocking murder.
And multiple murder.
3 generations of the same family being wiped out in one night.
Sylvia Fleming is born on October the 11th, 1980 in Omagh, County Tyrone, the youngest of 3 sisters. But Sylvia's sister Kathleen and elder sister Josie have a difficult start to their young lives and are raised by their father.
Daddy tried his best to look after us, but he couldn't.
Their father agrees to place the girls in voluntary care. Although they are moved between different foster homes, the sisters stay together and learn to rely on each other.
We felt really close as we hadn't got the normal family background. We would always do everything together. We told each other everything. If it's something wrong with us, we would come to each other.
Josie becomes a mother figure to Kathleen and Sylvia.
I felt very overprotective of my 2 younger sisters at all times.
According to Josie, the sisters suffer physical abuse in childhood, including the youngest of them, Sylvia.
We did go through some troublesome times, which definitely brought us closer together. My sisters were the only people that I felt I could really trust and depend on. My sisters mean the world to me.
Psychologist Emma Kenny works with victims of crime and believes Sylvia's troubled childhood put her at risk of potential domestic abuse in adult life.
Experiencing physical abuse as children has devastating effects on many people as they grow up. It infects every single relationship they have. They have issues around trust and feel very vulnerable. And this means that when they engage in relationships as they get older, they can at times be vulnerable within those relationships.
Despite the problems at home, Sylvia works hard at school and is determined to do well.
She wanted to better herself, make a good career for herself, have a good life for herself. She was an absolute amazing drawer, fantastic.
As Sylvia starts to grow up, it's very clear that she's an artistic young woman. She's very skilled, she's very capable at school. Her friends recognised that she was a popular young girl.
In 1997, 16-year-old Sylvia leaves school but continues her studies.
She went on from school on to Tech, where she studied a hairdressing course. Not long after that, she got herself a wee job in a nursing home.
Things seem to be looking up for the 3 girls. An elder sister, Josie, discovers she's pregnant.
Sylvia was over the moon. She couldn't wait to be an auntie.
Sylvia was very supportive of her sister. She was incredibly excited. She wanted to be a part of that situation. And that again demonstrates just how close they were.
Josie moves into her own place with the baby, and she invites her 2 younger sisters to move in with them.
It was a great time. We just started to think that this was our life, coming out of care, independence. We just thought this was us being happy again.
In December 1997, 17-year-old Sylvia meets 26-year-old part-time fireman Stephen Scott at a party in Scott's flat in Omagh.
Sylvia had said that she had met this man and he was called Stephen. I hadn't met him. I'd never seen him before. But she did seem generally happy.
Scott and Sylvia start a sexual relationship.
Sylvia just wanted, the love and affection of everybody that was around her.
But who is Stephen Scott? Dr. Kerry Nixon profiles serious violent offenders in her work with Cheshire Police.
When Stephen Scott moved to Omagh, nobody knew anything about him. He was a complete anonymous character. He was a part-time firefighter. He was a bodybuilder. Macho image was everything to Scott. He wore the best clothes. He wanted to always be the man that people looked up to.
He's somebody who's known in the community. He's a bit of a Jack the Lad, but people think he's a good guy who gets involved in lots of community work. He kind of examples the ideal man and somebody who could potentially look after Sylvia.
Although Scott appears popular in the community, running boxing clubs for teenagers, Josie has her doubts about him.
He loved himself. He loved the attention on him.
In the community, he's actually got a nickname, Bulldog. It's quite an aggressive nickname for him to have. He's actually around 10 years older than her, so he's significantly older. He seems like a man to her. He seems to know who he is and seems to have quite a lot already going on for him. He's probably quite a safe bet for her.
Sylvia's sister and her friends would go round to Scott's flat, and that's how Sylvia met Scott. And she was a very vulnerable girl. He was incredibly charming and manipulative. And as a vulnerable girl, she was obsessed with him very quickly.
Sylvia is not the only one who idolises Scott. Local teenagers seem in awe of the bodybuilding part-time fireman, and they regularly congregate at his flat for parties.
One of the strange things that Scott does is hang around with lots of younger people. So his flat is perpetually full of teenagers and young teenagers.
This was a 27-year-old man who surrounded himself with teenagers. And the only reason that would happen is because he was getting admiration and respect from children who looked up to this older man.
The fact that he has 14-year-old, 15-year-olds in his house and supplies them with things like alcohol means he wants to be a king. He wants to be seen by all of those as the king, and they are his minions. And that's very, very interesting because it shows that his character is desiring power, and he gets that from being admired by children.
UTV News broadcaster Jane Lockery reported on this case at the time.
They looked up to him, they worshipped him. They basically did what they were told. That was frightening in itself. That this man, who was 27 years of age, was influencing so many young children in the town.
Sylvia starts spending less time with her sister and her niece.
All the time they'd be up at his flat, weekends, during the week. He just liked to have the control of younger, vulnerable people.
Josie says she witnessed Scott's control firsthand.
They were walking down the street and I stopped to say to Sylvia, "Are you coming to stay at mine tonight?" And Stephen turned around and says, "Are you coming or are you not?" He tried to get her away from me.
Scott starts to socially isolate Sylvia because when she meets Josie in the street and he's with her, she won't speak, she won't talk about things, and this means that the relationship is having distance put between them. So if he can get her away from that family unit, if he can stop her hanging out with her sisters, which is her strength, then essentially he can own her, he can do whatever he wants with her, and that's why he gains full control.
She loved him, so she was going to go wherever he was. I did not like him at all. I knew that there was something about him. I knew he had control over her.
Scott has a sinister side to his personality. He is obsessed with serial killers. and has an extensive collection of books on them.
What's interesting is the serial killers that he particularly seemed to obsess over, Charles Manson and Ted Bundy. Charles Manson had this ability to charm people around them. Ted Bundy was very intelligent. He was very attractive. He would always take care of himself. And this is something that we can see Scott doing. And the fact that he had 10 books on Ted Bundy and talked about his IQ showed how this is something that he wanted to emulate.
But Sylvia seems oblivious to Scott's dark side.
Sylvia moved in with Stephen pretty quickly. Personally, myself, I thought it was too quick, but she seemed happy enough, so I didn't say anything. I let her go on.
She was a young person. Everybody is looking for the fairy tale. Every girl is hoping that her prince will come. And she had had such a difficult life that he represented that possibility. And of course, the reality was, this was about to become her worst nightmare.
Stephen Scott is not the man Sylvia thinks he is. Murder-obsessed Scott starts exerting control over her, which leads to a horrific conclusion.
It was a sexual motive. It was a sadistic crime. He was intending on killing her.
She leaves her friends, she goes to his house, and she's never seen again.
He's pure evil. Pure evil.
It's February 1998 in Omagh, County Tyrone. 17-year-old Sylvia Fleming has moved into the flat of her 26-year-old boyfriend, part-time fireman and bodybuilder Stephen Scott.
When she moves in with Scott, people who are around there, her friends, others who see her with him, start to notice that he's actually starting to become quite abusive towards her. He starts to demean her in public, call her names, call her stupid. And this is all about starting to chip away at her self-esteem, to make her feel bad and to make her feel that she doesn't deserve him.
He would always put Sylvia down, make her feel stupid in front of people, belittle her in front of people.
This is interesting. He's got two sides here. He is able to be charming when he wants, to people that he wants to be charming to, but he has a dark side where he'll demean Sylvia. And this shows me that he's a very, very dangerous character.
Sylvia finds it hard to stand up for herself.
She wasn't her normal feisty self, and it did look like he had control over her.
Scott's control over Sylvia extends to their sex life.
Scott treats Sylvia like she's a plaything, she's a toy, she's just a kid. So realistically, he can do what he wants with her. And this very much starts to play out in their sexual life together. In fact, it turns out that while Sylvia is naive and is engaging in a first proper relationship, he doesn't believe in having normal sex. He wants a very specific sex that's sadistic.
Scott liked to combine violence and sex. It wasn't enough for him just to have loving sex. He wanted to control her.
Sylvia stays with Scott, but she admits that his behaviour is upsetting her.
She confided in her friend that he had tried to put the pillow over her head, and she didn't like it, and she felt uncomfortable about it.
But Sylvia is scared of Scott and reluctantly complies.
Sadists don't care about the feelings of their partner. The whole intent is to scare them and harm them. So he wouldn't have been considering her feelings. The compliance that she showed came from fear. She wanted to let him do whatever he needed to do, so she pleased him.
She thought he loved her.
That's why he enjoyed tying her up. He wanted to control her. He wanted to demean her. That's how he gained his sexual pleasure.
I do think he was very manipulative. Makes me feel angry, frightened.
In March 1998, just 3 months after meeting Scott, Sylvia has some shocking news for her sister Josie.
Sylvia had phoned me, and she had told me that she had her suspicions that she was pregnant.
The pregnancy is confirmed, and a worried Sylvia tells Scott.
He wasn't happy.
This isn't something that Scott wants. Scott was probably planning at some point to move on. He didn't want a baby. He didn't want a long-term girlfriend, because the only thing that Scott is concerned about is Scott. So he said that the baby wasn't his. He didn't want a baby. He wanted to get rid of the baby.
He didn't want to be a father, so he tried to make out that Sylvia was with somebody else. Makes me feel very angry that he was trying to make it out like that.
Scott ends the relationship with Sylvia.
She moved out not long after she told him about the baby.
Devastated, she moves in with her friend, but continues to sleep with Scott, desperate to win him back.
They keep having sex, and the sex becomes clearly bondage. He ties her up regularly. Remember, she wants to get him back. She wants to please him, do whatever it takes to be with the father of her unborn child. It becomes more depraved, and she becomes more degraded. It's a terrible situation to find herself in.
As always, Sylvia's sisters offer their support.
She would have wanted things to work, but I had told her that me and Kathleen will always be there for her if things didn't work out with her and Stephen, that we would always be here.
It's Friday, April the 3rd, 1998, and 17-year-old Sylvia Fleming is celebrating receiving her first wage from her job at a care home for the elderly. She leaves her friend's house at around 11 p.m.
As far as we know, she had went over to his flat that night at about 11:15. And then, from then, whatever happened.
She leaves her friends, she goes to his house, and she's never seen again.
Scott is at his flat in Lissanelli Heights, waiting for Sylvia. And as usual, he has two 14-year-old friends there with him. They're drinking alcohol together. Chillingly, according to the two teenagers, Scott tells them he's planning on killing Sylvia, but they pass it off as a joke.
She has no idea that he has been plotting to murder her that night. She's going to his house, believing that she's starting her life, and he's there, ready to end it.
When pregnant Sylvia arrives, Scott takes her to his room. They drink alcohol together, and he gives her sleeping pills.
He drugged her with temazepam, tied her up to the bed, her hands and her feet, blindfolded her.
He ties her up, and then he tapes her eyes, her nose, her mouth.
He was intending on killing her, and he wanted to do what he wanted to her. It was a sexual motive, it was a sadistic crime, and he needed control over her.
She would have been absolutely terrified. Two reasons. Firstly, for her own safety, and secondly, she's pregnant. She's carrying a baby. Suffocation is a harrowing experience. Anybody knows how it feels when you can't get your breath. To have had tape placed across your mouth, to have had your eyes taken from you, to have been blinded by tape, the dark, the suffocation, the fear, the anxiety, the terror. I can't imagine a more horrific experience to go through with the person you believe is meant to love you.
You don't do something like that to somebody that you care about. He's pure evil. Pure evil.
Scott further abuses Sylvia. He injects her with insulin.
If you give insulin to somebody who's not diabetic, what it does is it lowers their blood sugar levels and induces eventually a form of coma. So he gave her alcohol, gave her Valium, and gave her insulin till she became almost like a zombie. And he could then use her as a sexual object to carry out his sadistic sexual pleasure.
Dr. Kerry Nixon believes that Scott's actions mirrored his heroes.
Scott was obsessed with serial murder and serial murderers, and he'd read extensively around the area. Many serial killers want to subdue their victims. And they do this so they can have them under control. If we look at somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, he wanted to be able to induce a coma in his victims so he could use them as his sex toy, so he could have sex with them after they were under control. But he didn't want them dead. So he was actually practicing trying to get what he termed a zombie. So he could have somebody in his house to have sex with, but they weren't really properly alive.
It's unclear what happens next, but Scott then invites the teenagers into the bedroom to see Sylvia's body.
2 people there, and he brought them in to the room.
One of the most disturbing elements about this case, aside from what he does to Sylvia, is that he involves 2 14-year-olds in this situation. He brings them into the bedroom and shows him his work. Now, the power dynamic going on there is huge, because not only does he feel that he's able to snuff out the life of his partner, he also feels so powerful over these young people that he can show them, and they won't tell anyone, and he enjoys it. There's a further sexual thrill there, and now he's got this perfect picture. I think this has been an image that he's created in his mind a long time ago, and now he's lived it out.
Degrading her in front of the other people that was there, it's disgusting.
Scott tells the 2 teenagers they are now implicated in Sylvia's death, and he starts thinking about how to dispose of her body.
He wouldn't have had them in the house if it wasn't part of his plan. He was not that stupid. He was reading around this area, so he knew that he was taking a risk by getting people into the house. So the fact that they were there, it was part of his plan. He knew that by showing them the body, he would be able to threaten them. You're involved now. You're part of this.
Will Stephen Scott get away with murder?
Scott's downfall is his ego.
I remember thinking, part of a body? What the hell has happened to my sister?
It's the early hours of April the 4th, 1998, in Omagh, County Tyrone. 26-year-old part-time fireman Stephen Scott has just murdered his 17-year-old pregnant girlfriend, Sylvia Fleming, in his flat. There were 2 teenagers in the flat at the time, and Scott then persuades the 14-year-old boy to help him dispose of the body.
Following the murder, Scott and his accomplice wrapped her in a blanket and put her up in the loft. And then they calmly went swimming. This is shocking and absolutely indicative of somebody with antisocial personality traits.
After they had done what they had done, they went swimming in the local leisure centre, and it makes me feel physically sick to think that they were able to go on and about their own business, knowing what they had done that night.
To show that level of a lack of remorse, a callous disregard for anybody's feelings, he had absolutely no respect for life.
When Scott returns to the flat, he embarks on a gruesome operation.
What happened when he returned from swimming is chilling beyond belief. He got a hacksaw and various other knives, put Sylvia into a bath, and cut her body up into 8 pieces.
Northern Ireland state pathologist Professor Jack Crane worked on this case and believed that Scott knew exactly what he was doing.
It seemed to me that the body had been very precisely and carefully and accurately cut into pieces. The knife wounds in the body were very precise, and similarly, the saw cuts on the long bones were very precise. So this has been done with a lot of care and attention by the assailant.
Using a hacksaw to cut through her bones and her flesh. She's a pregnant young girl. The mess, the degradation, the humiliation, and also the just absolute lack of respect for this beautiful young woman. It's horrendous.
You would expect that at the scene there would be a very considerable amount of blood present. You can just imagine cutting through the limbs where there are major arteries. They will all leak considerable amounts of blood.
In order to cut a human body into 8 pieces, including the severing of her head, takes unbelievable strength, is very difficult to do, particularly with a hacksaw and knives. So the level of callousness and hatred and violent nature that it takes to do this is shocking.
As pathologists, we're used with having to open the body and sometimes to look at bones and so forth. And for us, those are quite complex procedures. So similarly for an assailant doing this, it has to be done, or it was done, in a very methodical and precise method.
He doesn't care. And again, that leads me to believe that this is something he really enjoys. He's enjoying doing this. He wants to be able to do this. It just denotes how sick he is as an individual.
Scott needs to clean up the mess. And in one final insult to Sylvia, he steals from her.
In an act of utter disrespect, after he has murdered his girlfriend, he steals her wages, he steals the money that she'd taken round to him that night.
They stole her money from her coat pocket, £25 I think, to buy bin bags and cleaning products to clean up the house.
That's how callous Scott is. He's not even got the conscience to be upset. All he needs to do is to sort this mess out.
I mean, what this girl had gone through in her final moments on this earth is just very, very heartbreaking.
Meanwhile, Josie and her sister Kathleen are beginning to worry when Sylvia fails to return home to her friend's house.
I had said to Kathleen, phone Stephen's place to see if he had seen her. So Kathleen phoned Stephen and he didn't answer the first time, and then we rang again and he says that he hadn't seen her.
The next day, Josie, Kathleen and Sylvia's friend pay Scott a visit.
The 3 of us walked out to Stephen's flat. We had our suspicions going up the road that he had hurt her. We walked in to the flat and Stephen was sitting on the bed and his eyes was all red, pure red. I happened to glance up at the attic door and he had seen me. And he moved us into the living room. He kept saying that he didn't know where she was. He hadn't heard from her. He seemed very agitated. He kept repeating himself. I did have a suspicion that he had hurt her and had her up in the attic. Never did I think it went as far as it did.
He's not really willing to communicate with them. He wants to usher them out of the house, but they do notice that there are some backpacks on the floor. And what is terrifying is whilst he is denying that he knows where Sylvia is, he knows full well because she is packed in those rucksacks.
As Scott claims to have not seen Sylvia, Josie decides they need to contact the police.
I said, right, we're going to have to report her missing then because nobody has seen her. And he says, well, I'll help with the search and help you try and see if you can find her. So we left.
While Sylvia's sisters and friends take to the streets to search for her, Scott and his 14-year-old male accomplice begin disposing of Sylvia's body parts in rucksacks.
Stephen knew that he had to get the body out of the flat because they knew that his flat would have been the first one that'd be searched. So he knew he had to get the body out of the flat. So they removed it to a house in Mullaghmore.
I expect he had seen the development of the new houses and had already planned that that's where he was going to dispose of her body.
They carry the body parts across Omagh in their rucksacks to a nearby site where the new houses are being built. Scott's control over his young accomplice is reflected in who carries what.
Scott refused to carry the head and the torso because he said he had a bad back. To carry somebody's head is beyond shocking, And this is a 14-year-old who's walking down the street carrying a girl's head and a girl's body. So that is further controlling this young person. You are involved now. You carried a dead girl's head. You can't say anything to anybody.
The search for Sylvia intensifies.
We were searching, we were going round people, going round lanes.
And Scott joins in the search, feigning concern over Sylvia's whereabouts.
During the search, Scott actually passes the new building site where he's placed Sylvia's body. And at the time, he turns to Sylvia's friend and Kathleen and he says, "You shouldn't go up there, you never know what you might find." That is so alarming because in a weird way, he's trying to give them a clue. He's so excited by all of this that he likes to be in control, but at the same time can't help letting them know just a little bit about his power. It's almost like he wants to hold bait for people because he thinks he's that clever. He's committed a crime and he's going to get away with it, but he just wants somebody to know a little bit about his potential. That's how sick he is.
Not content with involving the two young people in his plans, Scott tells a 21-year-old friend about the murder and enlists his help in disposing of the final pieces of Sylvia's body.
Scott had most of the parts of Sylvia's body buried, and he needed his friend's help to bury the rest, which he did.
Scott's downfall is his ego. Scott brags to him about what he has done. He then gets involved in the disposal of the body, and this is his downfall.
Just 2 weeks after Sylvia was reported missing, Scott makes an official witness statement to the police, denying any knowledge of her whereabouts. They search his flat and find no evidence of wrongdoing.
They went up to the attic, searched it, there was nothing, no evidence of anything. And with no evidence of Sylvia being hurt or anything in his flat, the police had suggested maybe she had run away.
Over the next 7 weeks, the search for Sylvia continues. Then on the 30th of May 1998, Scott's friend, the 21-year-old he got to help dispose of the body, but who wasn't there the night of the murder, gets arrested in Omagh.
He wanted to be lifted. He told the police everything. And he took the police to the spot where Sylvia's body was.
On Sunday, 31st of May, police search the building site and make a gruesome discovery.
There was an unbelievable stench when they went into the house, and when they lifted up the floorboards, they saw that the damp-proof course had been cut and that the soil had been moved, and I think one of the limbs was sticking out, and they recovered Sylvia's body.
Kathleen and Joseph's worst fears are confirmed when the police discover Sylvia's remains buried under a new build house.
I did have a thought that she would come back. The whole 8 weeks.
The police tell Josie they've found part of a body they believe to be Sylvia's.
I remember thinking, part of a body? What the hell has happened to my sister?
Sylvia has to be identified by dental records.
The remains that we got were the head, which had been severed from the remainder of the body. There was the right upper limb on the right arm. There was the left arm. There was the right thigh. There was the left thigh. The right lower leg, so that was the bit below the knee. The left lower leg. And then separate from those was the torso, which is essentially the chest and abdomen part of the body.
We were living in hope that they were not going to come back and say that it was Sylvia, but they did. We were devastated. We couldn't believe what we were being told. I've lost my baby sister.
Scott and the two teenagers are immediately arrested, and the news that Sylvia's body has been decapitated and cut into 8 pieces sends shockwaves around Omagh. Just weeks after the Good Friday Agreement of April 1998, the murder sparks riots in the town, with anger directed at the houses of those involved.
I think such was the shock and the feeling of revulsion in Omagh that it manifested itself in firebomb attacks and riots in and around the area where Sylvia's body had been found. And it was basically people taking the law into their own hands. And the parish priest and the family wanted that to stop, because that's not what they wanted. I mean, they wanted justice, certainly, for Sylvia, but they were in their own nightmare themselves.
Whenever news broke out about what had happened, the town went mad. It's not something you'd ever hear happening in this wee town of Omagh, and everybody was just shocked that this happened. There was rioting. Windows of the houses of the people involved all got targeted. It was mad.
He thinks that he's really important, but actually he hasn't belonged to that community, whereas Sylvia, Kathleen, Josie, these belong to that community. He totally underestimated her worth. And that's the thing about Scott. That's his mistake, that he actually believes he's more important than that vulnerable young girl, and he's not. The whole community value her.
During his interviews with police, Scott lies initially, but eventually in his 3rd interview, he admits to slipping Sylvia sleeping pills on the night in question and tying her up. He then admits blindfolding her and taping over her eyes and nose and injecting her with insulin. However, Scott claims that he wasn't the one who killed her. He puts the blame on his 14-year-old male accomplice, claiming he pulled the rope around Sylvia's neck whilst they were all in the room with her, a version of events that was ultimately rejected out of hand in court. Scott admits dismembering the body and disposing of it, but when asked why no one called the police, he claims they panicked when they discovered Sylvia was dead.
You put her body in the loft afterwards, and then you went swimming. That's not the act of someone who's panicked.
There is no way that that man panicked following Sylvia dying. There was not panic anywhere in his behaviour. Somebody to leave the body, go swimming, come back, put a body in a bath and cut a body up, to do all that, that's not panic. That's sexual gratification.
Police forensics find horrific evidence in the bathroom of Scott's flat.
He cut her up in the bath so the blood would go down the pipe. And that's where there was blood DNA found in the pipes of the bath.
They found all the blood congealed in his drain pipes and in the guttering of his home, so they could place where she had been dismembered.
Feels like something out of a horror movie. It's not something you would ever hear happening. It's like something you'd watch on TV.
Stephen Scott is charged with the murder of Sylvia Fleming, and alongside the 2 teenagers and the 21-year-old, he is charged with 3 counts of perverting the course of justice and conspiracy to prevent the lawful burying of a body. As the whole of Northern Ireland looks on in horror, the trial is set for March 2000. Will Scott finally admit the truth?
Even by Northern Ireland's cruel standards, this was a shocking murder.
Stephen Scott is one of the most brutal, barbaric murderers the UK has ever seen.
It's March 2000, and 28-year-old Stephen Scott is on trial for the brutal murder of his 17-year-old girlfriend Sylvia Fleming in April 1998. The trial is national news, and ITV reporter Jane Lockery reported on the case.
The first time I saw Stephen Scott was in court in Ballymena, and I thought he looked very much like his nickname. His nickname was Bulldog, and I thought he looked like that. He was quite small, quite stocky, well-built, extremely strong. And to be honest, I thought he looked quite menacing. I thought, if he is guilty of this, she would have been no match for him.
The shocked courtroom is subjected to graphic details of the murder and the disposal of Sylvia's body.
The detail is so graphic, so disturbing and so upsetting that literally people within the courtroom are crying.
I kept thinking of her family, how her family must be listening to all this. Because it moved me, it moved the reporters I was working with.
I was very angry knowing that he was right in front of us. We had to just sit behind the man that brutally killed Sylvia.
Scott refuses to give evidence and shows no emotion.
He looked straight through me. No remorse, no nothing. Didn't care.
Scott is pleading not guilty, and he's sticking to his story.
Stephen Scott was trying to blame her actual murder on a schoolboy, although he was admitting that he had indeed dismembered her and had injected her with insulin. He was making out that this was a sex game that had gone wrong.
Although it is impossible to confirm the exact cause of death, the pathologist on the case, Professor Crane, believes it was asphyxiation caused by Scott.
Taping the mouth, the nose and the eyes would have the same effect of putting a bag over the head. So they're all effectively interfering with breathing. And while initially this may be done for some other reason, for example, some sort of sadosexual reason, quite clearly the risks associated with such activity is that the person can very rapidly die.
The horrific nature of the crime is referenced by the judge in his summing up.
The judge talked in the trial of the degradation and humiliation of Sylvia Fleming. Never, apart from the obviously sadistic way that she was murdered and dismembered and callously placed under floorboards, the fact that he had no respect whatsoever. Sylvia Fleming was not being treated like a human. She was like a piece of meat, just being chopped up and discarded. And the prosecution would have referred that often about the way that she had met her death.
On the 13th of March 2000, Stephen Scott is found guilty of murder, dismembering the body and concealing it. His teenage male accomplice is convicted of dismembering the body and concealing it, while the 21-year-old he involved is convicted of concealing the body. The young female who was there on the night of the murder is acquitted of all charges. On the 5th of April, Scott is sentenced to life imprisonment and is ordered to serve a minimum of 19 years. His two male accomplices are both given 2.5-year sentences.
Stephen Scott showed no emotion when the verdict was reached. That was a very cold moment. He had a very emotional moment in the courtroom.
For Dr. Kerry Nixon, this murder represents one of the worst in her experience.
Stephen Scott is one of the most brutal, barbaric murderers the UK has ever seen.
Evil. Monster. You don't do something like that to somebody that you care and love.
And the memory of this trial has stayed with everyone involved.
I have covered many trials in my time at UTV, and that's a trial that I will never forget. There have been a lot of callous, horrendous murders have happened in Northern Ireland. That's one I will always remember. Because even by Northern Ireland's cruel standards, this was a shocking murder.
The brutal murder of pregnant Sylvia has destroyed the lives of her sisters.
The real irony here is that, to a degree, Sylvia, Kathleen and Josie survived care together. They made it through into adulthood. And just as their lives should have been taking some control, some direction, having their own choices and leading to positive and bright futures, Scott stole all the girls' futures from them.
Always is going to be a missing piece. We miss her at special occasions, Christmas. It's a hole that you feel empty. And the thought of what happened that night in that flat will haunt me for the rest of my life.
The town of Omagh grieves for Sylvia, and they continue to support both Kathleen and Josie.
Whilst nothing will ever bring Sylvia back, the reality is that more than 15 years since her death, a whole community still remember her name, and a whole community will make sure that her life is remembered for the rest of their lives.
You have to remember the happy times. The three of us always been away, enjoying ourselves, laughing. Me and Kathleen will always be strong, and if anything, what's happened has made us even stronger. I do feel that my sisters will always be there all through my life. He will never break our bond, ever, ever.